Yes, thank you. I'm going to talk about Sepsisfonden. I'm a co-founder of that trust, but I think I'll start with showing you a little movie that we created when we launched Sepsisfonden in 2015. We realized at that point that one of our major issues or things that we needed to focus on was to actually explain what sepsis is. Maybe many of you know what it is, maybe someone has small knowledge of it and others more, but we realized that for the public to understand what sepsis is and to be able to actually raise the awareness around it, we needed to find a way to explain this rather complex condition. So we made a little movie. Let's just watch this movie first and I'll come back to it.
Sepsis, formerly called blood poisoning, is usually triggered by a local infection, such as pneumonia in the lungs, an infected wound, or infection of the urinary tract. Should bacteria from the local infection spread or secrete toxic substances into the bloodstream, the immune system may sometimes go into overdrive, causing inflammation throughout the entire body. You get sepsis. This interferes with the blood flow, which leads to a drop in blood pressure, making it difficult for the blood to carry oxygen to the body's major organs. This can lead to failure of organs such as the lungs, the kidneys, or the heart. In the worst cases, the patient dies in a matter of hours. Detecting sepsis early is crucial, so be attentive to symptoms such as fever and chills, breathing difficulties, diarrhea and vomiting, confusion and slurred speech, low blood pressure and elevated heart rate, low urine production. Sepsis can affect anyone. Help us stop sepsis.
Yes, I'd just like to say that this movie is on YouTube if you want to use it in any matter and to explain what sepsis is. You feel free to do that. It's just write in what is sepsis and this will be on the top. Now, so this is what sepsis is, and how common then is it? Well, in Sweden, around 40,000 people develop sepsis every year, and out of these, about 20% dies. So it's a very high mortality condition. And it's also more common than the four most common cancer forms together combined, prostate, breast, skin and colon cancer. About 27,000 people suffer from those diseases every year. So it's a very common disease and yet it's very unknown to many people. Some important aspects of sepsis, as I said, it's a high mortality. It's the most deadly acute condition you can have in hospitals today. You can compare it to myocardial infarction, which has about 7.5% acute deadliness. Early detection is really crucial, as also said in the movie, and this is because time is really of essence. If you detect sepsis early on and get the right treatment, it's more likely that you have a good outcome, as every hour is important when it comes to treating sepsis. And one aspect that we also have tried to focus the attention around is the link between sepsis and the rising problem of antibiotic resistance in the world. Because if we don't have antibiotic that can treat sepsis, it will be a really huge problem. And we can just look back about 100 years ago when the Spanish flu was a big problem in this world, and about 50, or at least 50, maybe up to 100 million people died of the Spanish flu. And the real cause of death when you died from the Spanish flu was sepsis, and that this was obviously before antibiotics was available. So this is a problem. And also in the war against sepsis, getting better methods for diagnosis and treatment, better treatment, is really crucial when it comes to fighting sepsis. I'll get back to that in a while. Now, so before we started Sepsisfonden, we did a survey trying to get knowledge around exactly how bad was the situation around awareness in Sweden when it comes to sepsis. And the blue line is in 2015 this was before we started Sepsisfonden. The awareness was as low as 21%, which is really very low, and especially compared to other conditions or other diseases. We gave questions around all kinds of diseases. You can see them on this side. Well, not the English-speaking people, but still. And as you can see, Swedes in general have good knowledge about our common health diseases, but sepsis sticks out. We did a new survey last year in 2017, and as you can see, it has increased to 30%, which is substantial, but still it's far too low. And that's why we're still working mostly with raising awareness around sepsis, because that's the most important task right now for us. And on the other hand, there's any very low funding for sepsis research. This is actually numbers from the States, study from the States, but it's quite equivalent to the Swedish conditions. As you can see, sepsis is the most common condition, and this is the funds going into sepsis research. So that's also a problem. So sort of these two aspects of it made us start Sepsisfonden. So we want to increase the awareness and spread knowledge around about sepsis among the public, but also politicians, decision makers, make them aware of it, and also within medical staff. And the other one is to raise and give out money to research that can improve methods for diagnosis and treatment of sepsis. That is why we started Sepsisfonden, and that's what we still work on. And our goals is to increase the awareness. Now, this is a number that we have aimed for 2019. We hope it will be more than that, and I'll get back to you why we think we might get further. We want to contribute to lowering the number of deaths caused by sepsis. We also want to contribute to getting better treatment for sepsis sufferers, and last but not least, to help sepsis survivors to get longer and healthier lives, because that is also a problem. Some people get sepsis and get full recovery, but quite a lot of people have problems for a long time, and sometimes lifelong problems. Obviously, you can get amputated and stuff like that, but it also can be other things that you might not see on the outside, but like some quite common aspects of the rehab of sepsis is that you can get brain fatigue, depression, all sorts of cognitive problems. And these are things that is not really addressed, at least not in Sweden, as an issue for sepsis survivors. So that's also something we like to work with. So with that background, we started Sepsisfonden in 2015, September 3 years ago. You can, if you want, go to Sepsisfonden.se and read more about us. We are part of an international network. We work and collaborate quite closely to, obviously, World Sepsis Day, which is today, but it's also an organization. It's the name of an organization, World Sepsis Day. They work globally with these issues, and they have a really good website you can go to. Global Sepsis Alliance is also, we are part of that, and I missed to put that in, but this May, also a European Sepsis Alliance was adopted. So we are part of that. And we also work quite closely to our equivalent in the UK, the UK Sepsis Trust, who have come quite far with raising awareness in sepsis, around sepsis in the UK, and we try to do things similar to them to make the same progress here in Sweden. Now, last year in May, WHO adopted a sepsis resolution. And this was actually quite good for us, because we have felt a good push for us nationally too about sepsis. In short, this resolution elevated sepsis to a world health problem. And I didn't say that before, but in worldwide, about 30 million people suffer from sepsis every year, and around 7 to 9 million dies. So that is basically one person every 3 seconds dies of sepsis around the clock. So this is a worldwide problem. But when WHO addressed this and made it into resolution, it also increased the pressure on the member states to actually take action and an ownership of this problem and spreading awareness among public and also about health professionals. And interesting in this resolution was also that they identified the increased awareness as the key in the battle against sepsis. And the reason is that if people don't understand what sepsis is, and if they suffer from sepsis, they get it, they're sitting at home and having these problems, or a family member has it, and you don't understand what it is, then you maybe not seek healthcare or help in time. So since the time is crucial when it comes to treating sepsis, awareness is also crucial. So there's an expression that World Sepsis Day invented, which is really good. Sepsis is the #1 most preventable cause of death in hospitals today. And that means that a lot of deaths from sepsis wouldn't have to happen if we had the right knowledge in the public, but also in the healthcare system. We try to communicate. When you come to the hospital and you might think that you have sepsis, ask the question, could this be sepsis? Because quite often, it's even when you come to the hospital, they're not quite on their toes when it comes to sepsis. And it can take sometimes too long, 1 or 2 hours before they realize what it is. Sometimes can cause death because you don't get the right treatment in time. So increased awareness will lead to fewer people dying, and that is obviously the main focus for the awareness campaign that we are trying to now. We hope in 2019 to be able to do a national-wide awareness campaign. And we are right now talking to different kinds of people, organizations that we try to do this, collaborate with, to do this really broad, to the public, national awareness campaign. So yes, that was what I had to say today.
Thank you very much, Ulrika. Very interesting to learn about this big challenge.
It is
global
a big
challenge.
Yeah, it is.
So Sweden, you have measured the awareness here, and we have a low yet increasing, thanks in part to your great work, level of awareness of sepsis here. What level of awareness is there globally?
Well, the problem is pretty much the same all over the world. Actually, the UK, much to the UK Sepsis Trust, has raised until 60% now. So they are probably the country in the world that has the highest. So that gives you an idea. Yeah. But quite a lot of countries don't have, especially in the third world. And in the third world, actually about 60 to 80% of the deaths are caused by sepsis. Yeah. Due to, hygienic problems and stuff like that. Young children and pregnant women. This is the most common death in those countries, but they don't understand. They don't have the knowledge of it. Okay. But even in the Western world, it's a big problem that people don't understand what sepsis is. The knowledge is, and as I said, 100 years ago, people knew sepsis because it was everyday kind of. We formally call it blood poisoning, and that's I might just address that. We have in Sepsisfonden made it clear that we want sepsis to be the expression, because blood poisoning is not an adequate, because sepsis is really like a umbrella. just like cancer is an umbrella for like 200 different diseases. But it's when an infection gets severe in the whole body. That's when sepsis occurs, and when the organs are suffering from the infection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned UK have a 60% rate awareness. That's really good then.
That's really good. Yeah, it is.
What are they doing? Is it a matter of funding or is it something else?
I think they have worked a lot with national awareness, and they have actually had a lot of UK politicians are much up there and talking about it. They even talk about it in the parliament. I have some clips of that, and I won't show you now, but it's more a topic. And I think that's what we need to work with. Obviously work with the public, but also with our politicians to make them understand and make them raise the money that we need for, especially when it comes to the medical, the hospitals, to have the right skills and now we have some good examples in Sweden, like in where I come from in Skåne, we have Region Skåne, have sepsis alert alarms since almost 2 years. And I know there's a few Stockholm. Both Karolinska and SÖS has started with that too. And that's a good start, you know. But we need to also on vårdcentralerna, whatever that's in the local kind of health centers. They also need to have the same kind of knowledge.
Karolinska actually sent out a press release today stating that in 1 year, from September last year, their sepsis alarm has gone off, so to speak, 470 times or something like that. And they could see that the difference in people getting treatment with antibiotics differed by 3 hours for the ones that had these sepsis alarms and that didn't.
So you see, that's I can just tell you also there's in October now, there's a clinical test going out in Lund concerning a blood test that could be like a quick test for an early detection of sepsis, because there's a protein that has been shown in research in a group of researchers in Lund. Could be an early detection for sepsis. So if that gets working, you can actually, whenever people comes into the ER, you can just check for that and get treatment going much faster. So if that's really interesting to follow and see what happens there, because that could be really
interesting. That's a Swedish
it is
in the forefront. So awareness is really important, and early detection or diagnostics is a key element as well. And then of course treatment is crucial when you actually get this problem.
Quick treatment. And
what's the lookout at this point for better treatment, so to speak?
Well, I think if we can raise the awareness and get more funding to the research, there's quite a lot of good research going on in Sweden and globally too, but there's just too little funding. So we have to realize, we are actually looking a lot on cancer research for the last 50 years. We can do a lot of things similar to that, as long as we get some more money. Well, not we, but the people researching around it. And I think there's a good lookout if we just, as a society, realize this is a problem that we need to address.
The differences in funding that you showed earlier was actually quite shocking.
It is shocking. It is,
considering the prevalence of sepsis. But given then that the awareness is rising and hopefully funding will follow, at this point, why is there such a low interest or still in finding new cures? Or there aren't that many companies working on sepsis. In Sweden, for example, we will hear one of the few here today. But
I think the problem is just what we talked about. Cancer has been known for many years as a big problem for a huge group of people in the society. In the 90s, HIV was big. So we have to start talking about sepsis and the real problems with it. And I think when we start doing that and get the awareness not just to the public, but to everyone, then it will also be more hot to go into research and fund that and raise money for that. I think it goes together. If we have more awareness, then all the companies will also realize this is something. There's a lot of people that could be helped. So I think it's really a matter of awareness.
And there's this issue about different areas that are not equally hot, so to speak, for companies to go into.
Exactly.
Like now, immuno-oncology is really hot, for example. But what about on the academic level then? Because they're perhaps not as sensitive to trends, so to speak.
No, I think there's actually quite a lot of researchers want to do more, but the problem is it costs money to go into really deep research when it comes to sepsis. Well, into any research really. So I don't think I think there's a will academically wise, but there just needs more money.
Yeah, and
especially to go into like the clinical state, as you say, finding now the test now in Lund. There's a Scottish company that has gone in with the money to develop that test.
Okay.
From the research done in Lund. So it's
they see the potential.
Yeah, exactly. They see the potential. And I mean, worldwide, if this really goes well, it could be a real hit worldwide. And for them, obviously, a good investment.
True blockbuster.
Yeah.
As far as Sepsisfonden goes, there is in Sweden. There's a huge actor within Cancerfonden, with the Cancer Fund, which every year contributes lots and lots of money to research. And is the goal of the Sepsis Fund to become something similar?
Well, yes. It might take us 50 years. I don't know to go that far. But yes, definitely, we want to. This is one of the things that we have been working for these last few years. Obviously, we are still in a financial sort of working our way up. We still haven't been able to actually give out money to research, but we now have some good. Well, I can't say really what, but we have some finances that we might have coming in. Okay. And also, if we can have a national world campaign, awareness campaign, we also think that we, from the bottom, can. Get more money, and in that way, quite soon give back to research. But obviously, it'll take time to go as far as the Cancerfonden, because they've been working for a long time, and they have. We are like me and Adam, and we're a small group of people working with this at this point, mostly.
Every journey starts with one.
Exactly,
step,
we have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But that is our goal.
Yeah,
definitely.
Right. And if people who are watching this would like to contribute to Sepsisfonden, is there like a number for that?
Yes. Well, I should have had this here. If you go into Sepsisfonden.se, you find our Swish and our bankgiro. Yeah. Yeah, and please contribute if you want.
Yeah. Are you doing anything special apart from being here, gracing us with your presence today at World Sepsis Day?
Yeah, we have quite a few people now out on different places in Sweden. Sepsis survivors who are handing out flyers and talking about sepsis. We have one on Svampen later on, and here in Stockholm on SÖS, and different cities in Sweden. On Sunday we have a sepsis relay, Sepsisstafetten, down in Skåne, raising money for and people running for this. And also today I'll be going over to Södersjukhuset to talk a little about Sepsisfonden, and also giving away. We have a prize, Sepsispriset, that we give out once a year. Yeah. And this year we have given it to Otto Kars, which I don't know if you know him, but he's well known in the infection parts of Sweden, whatever you call it. Yeah.
Infections.
He started. He was a very pioneer, really, when it comes to the awareness around antibiotic resistance. Okay. He started in '95 with Strama, which focused on this. And as I said before, this is something that we like to get people to understand the link between antibiotic resistance and sepsis. So that's what we're giving him the prize. So that's what we're doing around World Sepsis Day.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Ulrika, and keep up the good work. It's really important, of course, and it was lovely to have you here.
Me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.